Thank you so much for coming in today so we could discuss your daughter Lucy and how she's doing in my classroom. I would just like to start off this meeting by saying that Lucy is so lively and full of energy. She has a great desire to learn and she is very good at making friends. Lucy tries hard with all of her work. Every time I give her an assignment or a task to do, she completes it right away. She never tries to avoid it and always fills out the paperwork completely. She also has great handwriting, which makes it easy for me as a teacher to correct her work and to see how she's doing. I never have to try to decode her writing, and it is easy for me to read. Lucy is very good at listening and following directions. She really works hard to please a teacher, which makes it easier for me because it's one less thing for me to worry about in my classroom. She's also great at participating in my lessons. I love it every time I see her hand go up, and she always has something great to add to a discussion or a really insightful answer to my questions. So one thing we do in our school is we administer different assessments to gauge where each child is at academically. These different assessments measure fluency of reading, accuracy, sight words, concepts about print, comprehension, and more. With Lucy, I gave her the running records assessment and the concepts of print assessment. Running records, what that is it's basically Lucy's reading a small little snippet of text, and I'm marking whether she says a word correctly or whether she's self-correcting, and I'm also listening for fluency and her use of punctuation marks in the text. We try to make these tests as positive as possible for the kids. We don't want to make it seem scary or that they're being punished for this. We just want to make it something else that they do in the class that's not like waiting on their grade or anything, because all these tests do is they're a way for us to see where your child's excelling and where they may need some help. With Lucy, when I took her back for the running record, she was very calm and wasn't even worried, so that was very nice for me because I knew that she was at a place where she could take this test to her best ability, and I was very glad that she wasn't nervous about it, and it's probably why she did so well on both these tests. So there was only a couple of things from the running record that I was able to find that Lucy could work on. The first was fluency with using punctuation marks correctly. During her reading, there was some times where she would skip over periods or miss a comma, and so it just wouldn't make that sentence flow the way it's supposed to. This isn't a major concern because this problem could have been caused by nerves or something similar, but it's still a good idea to practice really solidifying that skill with Lucy. Another area that I noticed was reading with expression. She did so good on everything else, I had to look for something that she could work on because it's always better to work on something than to just stay where we're at. We always want our students to learn more and progress in any way that they can. I did notice that when she was doing the running record, she was kind of reading with a monotone voice, and this is something that most young kids struggle with, so Lucy is in no way behind the pack. I know that she can do it from working with her and giving her a lesson, and after I administered this lesson, she read with expression really well. And there's a text that we refer to as teachers, and it's called Literacy in the Early Grades, and we reference this book a lot to help us with literacy. In this text, it talks about prosody, which is the ability to orally read sentences expressively with appropriate phrasing and annotation. In school, some activities that we do to help this and that will help Lucy and other students is develop their prosody is by doing reader theaters and choral reading. And readers theaters gives them an opportunity to maybe act out a part and read with expression with people listening and reading out loud. And choral reading is the same, just reading a text out loud with either a small group of students or with the whole class. And by doing this, they're able to practice reading with that expression to other people, because when they're reading by themselves, I'm sure that there's no real pressure to try to read with expression. One thing that you could do at home that would really help Lucy to develop her prosody as well is read out loud with her every night. Pick books that have a lot of expressive reading, and make sure that she is using expression with her reading when you read with her. Maybe even take turns while you read the book. So maybe you read a page and try reading expressively so that she's seeing that being modeled and what she should do, and then have her read and just remind her, like, hey, yeah, read this with expression. And I think that would really help her develop that skill. Lucy had a lot of strengths that I noticed with her reading. The first was that she was very good at decoding. When she came across a word that she didn't know, she would stop and pause on that word. And I noticed that she would look up at the illustration, or she would look at the rest of the sentence every so often to try to figure out what this word is, or she would sound out the letters and try to figure out what the word was. I thought this was great because sometimes what kids will do is they will guess and just move on to the rest of the sentence, even if the word didn't make sense. But what Lucy did was she was really good at making sure she knew what the word was before she moved on. She's also really good at recognizing sight words. None of the sight words in the text in the running record test fazed her. She read them all really well. She's also really good at, like I said before, using the images to decode words, and she occasionally did use the context as well. She passed the concepts of print tests easily. 100% didn't faze her at all, so that is really good in the future because with the different parts of a text, it's good to know like the author, and especially the content page will help her when she comes across informational text where she needs to go find certain parts of the book instead of looking through the whole thing. She's also really good at taking instruction and applying it to her learning and her work. When I gave her the mini lesson after doing the running record with her, I gave her the content to work with, and I modeled for her. And then when she did the work after, she read with expression. She used the punctuation correctly, and she continued doing all of her other strengths well too. So I'm really glad that she is such a good learner and was able to take the suggestions I had for her and apply them to her learning. One way that you could help Lucy become a better decoder is to model this for her. Although she is already really good at using context clues, it wouldn't hurt to work with her further on this and to develop that skill. In class, I use thinking out loud while I read to model for the kids what it looks like to use context clues to decode a word. This not only helps Lucy, but it helps the rest of the kids. And I can see them try to do it in their reading after too. And it's just really great for them to learn that. At home, you can also do the same thing in the books that you're reading with Lucy. Maybe choose a level of book that might be a step above Lucy's level. And when you come across a word that you think that she might struggle with, think out loud how you would decode that word using the context. And I think that would be really beneficial for her. And maybe have her also, when she's reading to you at home, have her think out loud to you too, so that you can see that she's using that skill of thinking out loud and decoding with the context clues. So just to wrap this up, and as a reminder, Lucy is great, or I just want to reiterate that I love having Lucy in my class. She is such a joy. She's a great learner. You have nothing to worry about. She is always looking for ways that she can improve and taking any improvement that I suggest for her and applying it to herself. In reading at home, just remember to focus on fluency, expression, and decoding with context clues. And I think at this point, practicing and using these things and all the other things, even a lot of her strengths and things she's already good at, just being able to practice that in her reading with you guys will greatly help her with her literacy skills and her ability to just learn more. I am so glad that I was able to have this meeting with you guys, and I am so glad that I was able to have Lucy in my class this year. Thank you so much for coming in.